Hello, welcome to the Law Professor channel. In today's presentation, we shall be looking at the introductory aspects of the tort of defamation. The introductory aspects, and the essence of this video is to give us some background understanding of what this tort is about and what would be expected to pay particular attention to as a student of the law of tort. It's therefore one of the series of videos on the tort of defamation. Hopefully, we shall be having 3 other videos to cover the grounds of the major discussions in this field of study. Now, the tort of defamation, it's a very interesting tort because it governs this aspect of tort law that protects what we call your reputation. And most of the discussions that we have had in tort, not really, focus on protection of this kind of interest. We have looked at protection of property rights. We have looked at protection of, personal safety. So in this regard, we are looking at a different aspect of the law of torts. So what are we trying to get at today? Like I said, it's just an introductory video meant to help us understand the legal framework for defamation law in Nigeria, specifically. Where do you find the laws and how to apply the laws? To also understand the basis, the foundations, the theories behind the tort of defamation. Why would the law want to protect your reputation, for instance? Why would it want to do that? Then it also aims to give us the various perspectives, like looking at whether there are provisions in the human rights documents, whether there are criminal perspectives to it. So you'll be able to understand the various angles to the tort of defamation. And then it also introduces you, gives you snippets of some of the things that you need to pay attention to in the substantive discussions when we begin to look at the elements of the tort. I'm sure you know that from previous discussions that most of the times when we are dealing with the law of tort, we define the tort. From the definition, we are able to bring out the elements. So those elements will be treated in detail in subsequent videos. Now, the basis of defamation. Defamation as a tort is the law that deals with what you say. I call it the law of torts. The law of torts, communication law. And it's the law of relationships to an extent, because it deals with how we interact with each other, how we talk to or about each other. So it's about censoring speech. And in this age that we are in the ICT age, where everyone is talking, everyone is publishing, everyone is putting something in the public space. The law of defamation has come to occupy the front burner of discussions, thoughts. And before the ICT age, defamation law is regarded as the terror of publishing. It's the nightmare of publishers. And so old cases, you see that they dealt with publishing houses, newspaper houses, television houses, and what have you. But with the ICT age, the law should move beyond those publishers, because now we are all publishers. So in this new age, the law begins to gain greater traction. And in terms of even protecting cyberspace, you'd find that a lot of the discussions and the cases deal with issues of defamation. What the law tries to do in protecting reputation, in protecting your identity, what people think about you, the reputation that you have, is to balance the rights of the defendant to free speech, to say what you want, freedom of expression, with my rights as a plaintiff to reputation. So, well, the law recognizes from our understandings of constitutional law and human rights and all those that we have a freedom of expression. What we are saying is that your freedom of expression is not without limitation. And so where that freedom stops is where the right to reputation of the plaintiff will start. So the law tries to balance those two, and this we'll find as we go along in the treatment of other areas of the law. So it is an aspect of communication law, and it aims essentially to protect your reputation, your good name. Your good name is part of your property. It's a valuable possession that the law aims to protect. And so what is the legal framework for defamation law? In Nigeria, it's a common law tort. You find it as a common law tort. You also find it as a statutory tort. There are provisions in legislations that actually, focus on the tort of defamation. For instance, the defamation law of Lagos State is an example. It's also a crime. And why is it a crime? Because defamation can cause a breach of the peace. So you look at the fact that it's not only a tort, it's also a crime. And the criminal legislations, and I've just brought two out for you to see. The criminal code law defines defamation and makes it an offense. It is misdemeanor, punishable by 1 year imprisonment. And it says that it's a written statement that is written that verbal, visual, photographic, audio, or video recordings, whether expressed directly or by implication, that is likely to injure the reputation of a person by exposing him to hatred, contempt, or ridicule, or likely to damage any person in his profession or trade by injuring his reputation. So, and that essentially also captures what defamation is in tort. But we'll focus more on the tort definition in subsequent videos. It's a misdemeanor punishable by 1 year imprisonment. We also see the Defamation and Offences Commission Act, which creates the offense where the defamatory matter may cause breach of the peace. Sometimes you have some things that people say in public space that are very volatile, that cause civil unrest, that cause political unrest, and what have you. So these are some of the ways that the law tries to censor your freedom of expression to an extent that it not cause a breach of the peace. The legal framework, in terms of looking at other countries, I've talked about Nigeria, and the law of defamation is not uniform across jurisdictions. We have some differences here and there. When we look at the elements, we make reference to some of those differences in terms of, and in this age that we live in a borderless world, where defamatory content arise from one country and be has an effect in another country, the law must continue to right now the law is almost like playing catch up, but hopefully the law should be able to move at the same pace, if not faster, than the speed of technology, and be able to make adequate provisions for in the international perspective, the cross-border perspective, and what have you. So I think we lost our communication, and so we just continue. And so the law continues to, let's see where we stopped. Okay, I want to believe that we could continue where we stopped. Now, so the balancing of interests, like I said, let's go to okay, so I was on the international perspective, and I said that approaches of countries may differ. Under the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, Article 1A provides that the freedom of expression comes with its special duties and responsibilities, and may be subject to certain restrictions as provided by the law. So freedom of expression is not an absolute thing, and these restrictions may be necessary, for instance, for the respect of the rights in reputation of others. So it stops where the rights to reputation of other people starts. For the protection of national security, so you cannot just say just anything because you have a freedom of expression, where it cause a breach of the peace or for the public order or public health or morals. So that's an aspect of the limitations and international perspective. Now, what is this defamation we are talking about? While we look at this definition in detail in subsequent videos, we can just take the definition to say that it is where you publish a statement concerning a person which is likely to lower him in the estimation of people, right-thinking members of the society. So what statement you are making, it must be about a third party, and it must be such that it causes injury to the reputation of that person. It may, that injury may cause that person to be shunned, to be ridiculed, to be avoided, or convey an imputation that is disparaging or injurious to his office. So we'll be looking at the meaning of that definition, where essentially what it is saying is that defamatory publication is something that affects the reputation of a person. And your reputation is what others think about you and what implications it has in their relationship with you. The elements that we can take for that definition, and in terms of the elements, in different texts and authors, and you would have something 3 elements, 4 elements. But when you look at those elements, essentially they encompass the same thing. In the case of Abalakan and Akinsete, the Supreme Court said that, okay, for you to have a defamatory matter, you must have a publication of an offending words by the defendant. It must be offending. The words must refer to the plaintiff who is before the court. So you must know that you must be the plaintiff that he was talking about. The words must be defamatory. It's not just that the person has published something that's offensive to you. It must be defamatory in the eyes of right-thinking members of the society. The publication must be to a third party. So talking about if it doesn't get to a third party and it's made to the plaintiff, it may not be defamatory. So we'll be looking at such issues as we go along. It must be false or lack accuracy, because one of the major defenses to defamation, as we find out later, is the truth of the statement. If what you said is true, then it is not defamatory, no matter how offensive, no matter how disparaging it might be to the plaintiff. And then the defendant that is before the court must have no justifiable legal grounds for making the publications. So in conclusion, in this video, we should note that your examiner will be testing your knowledge of the definition of defamation. They'll be testing your knowledge of the types. Defamation may be slander, it may be libel. We say one is written, one is oral. So your ability to differentiate those is important as a law student. They'll be testing your knowledge of the elements. You'll be breaking down the elements into essentially 3, even though I've captured some of the elements that the Supreme Court has mentioned, looking at the issue of what we mean by defamation, what is the meaning of a defamatory statement, and we're looking at whether the issue of reference to the plaintiff, who is really the person that's been talked about, who is the plaintiff in the case before, who can be a plaintiff in defamation, can the state be a plaintiff, can you sue the defame a political party, what about a dead person? So we'll be looking at that, we're looking at those elements, and we look at the publication, the meaning of publication. When do you really publish something? And then we take the defenses. So a good student in this field of study should be able to understand the defenses, like the justification, that is the truth of the statement, statements that are made, that are reports, or made in the public interest, and consent, and what have you. So these are some of the things that we were looking at in the thought of defamation. And having said that, in the subsequent videos, we were taking the definition and the meaning of the meaning of defamatory statements and the types of defamatory statements. And I hope that at the end of the series of videos on defamation, you have a good grasp of what the thought is about and what you are expected to know as a student in this field of study. I'll see you at the next presentation.